Artist series, the sessions panel at a distance, the adventure continues. Jared James Nichols, thank you so much for joining me.
Dom, it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. I'm honored. It's going to be awesome.
Well, I'm so impressed with your career. You really are someone special. I want to make sure we capture your story so everyone out there can listen to it and understand it and be inspired by it. Tell me now, but first of all, what have you been doing during this pandemic? How have you kind of maintained your schedule and time during the pandemic?
Well, I'll say this. I wrote a record. I've spent every single day just honing in on the things that I didn't get to do when I was out touring, when I was, busy outside of the house. I actually took the time and I said to myself, okay, listen, I don't think you're going to have this free time again. So use it to your advantage. So I started doing a bunch of crazy stuff. I said, I'm going to write a song a day. I'm going to explore different techniques I've never even dreamed about trying, listening to different music and just all in all trying to stay inspired and become a better player and just keep pushing.
Well, you really have squeezed the most out of this time. This pandemic, as I said, now seems like it's winding down, and the road traveling and the touring is going to begin pretty soon. So it's been a challenging time, but you seem like you really maximize the most out of it. When you look at it, did you think of it like as a business where you said, I've got this time, let me see how far I can push myself?
So for me, I really knew that this was going to be a time to maximize and to really dig in. I didn't take it for granted, and I knew that we were all in the same boat. So it was really important for me not only to stay inspired, but also like online to inspire others to keep playing, to keep pushing, and overall just spread positivity. Because I felt like through music, no matter the darkest times, whatever state we were in, the music still was something that everyone looked forward to. Every day I woke up during the pandemic and I said, I'm going to play guitar today. I'm going to do this. This is what I need to do.
Well, you for sure are doing it. So let's go back to the beginning. Where did it start for you? What got you involved in guitar and this entire journey that you're on?
Okay, so Dom, I'm born and raised in Wisconsin, cornfields. There's not a lot going on. When I was a kid, I loved cars. I thought I was going to grow up and be a mechanic. I didn't think about music. I loved listening to music, like with my father. There was always classic rock or old school country or something on the radio, and I loved it. But it wasn't until I was about 14 years old that I was in middle school and I went to the high school talent show and I saw a band playing and I was like, whoa, these guys are a little older than me. And I remember seeing the guitarist and I was like, man, that's awesome. I got inspired and I was like, I would love to maybe do that. And a lot of my friends played guitar. So originally I wanted to be a drummer. I said, I want to play drums. I'm going to play the drums because everybody plays guitar. So my brother's friend had a drum set and he goes, yeah, you can take it to the house. And my dad was a construction worker. So he was, working during the day. I got this drum set in our basement and I turned up my boombox as loud as it would go. And I started to try and play along. He walks downstairs and he goes, no, no way. And I was crushed. I was like, oh man. He goes, why don't you get a guitar? It's got a volume knob. You can take it with you. I remember I said, okay, I'll try it. And I remember when I picked up a guitar, I had my friend's electric and I just heard the sound of it and I felt it. And I'm a lefty, so I have kind of a weird thing with guitars, but I knew when it was in my hands, I was like, this is really cool. And then I was off to the races. I was trying to play with records. I was trying to play with anything on the radio. I just fell in love. I fell really hard, really quick.
And you didn't think about turning the guitar around like some lefties do?
So check this out. I went to go get my parents said we had an old acoustic. They said, if you can learn how to play something on the acoustic, we'll go get you an electric. So when I first went to the music store to get an electric, I was holding them like this. I was kind of, I was like, man, maybe this is right? Because I'm a lefty. I write with my left hand, And the guy at the shop goes, hold on. If you're going to play guitar, you got to be a righty. I said, what do you mean? He goes, man, there's no lefty guitars around. He goes, you're going to have such a hard time finding guitars. He said, if you're playing with other musicians, you'll always have to bring your own guitar. So for me, I was like, okay. So I started righty. And what was crazy about when I started righty was I just didn't like a guitar pick. So for me, like my whole style is built on that, finger picking kind of electric guitar stuff, which not a lot of people do. I got into that because I loved, like on this hand, you feel the notes under the, I don't know if you can hear me play, but I got it plugged in, but like, but I use my fingers and I love the feeling of it. So that was the thing when I was a lefty. I was like, oh man, not going to use a pick.
That's interesting. So is that where the pickless concept came from?
It really was. Yeah. I remember people told me in the beginning too, they were like, you got to use a pick. If you're going to be a real guitar player, you have to use one. And I hated it. It would fly away. So I found that I could get all these different kind of sounds by using my different fingers. And then I found all the guys like Jeff Beck and Mark Knopfler and Albert King and Hubert, all the old blues guys. And I said, well, those guys use their fingers. I think I'll be okay. And I just kept going down the path with it. And it's a quirky thing about my style, but people will go, hey, you're the no pick guy. And I'll go, ooh. So it works.
So did you start taking lessons? Was there a formal sense of studying?
So when I got the guitar, it came with a free guitar lesson at the shop. I remember I walked in the room, Dom, and the guy his name was Craig Fremoth, and he had an Eddie Van Halen style with the stripes on it. Nice. I walk in and all of a sudden he goes, wow. And I'm a 14, 15-year-old kid, and I see that and my jaw drops and I'm like, I want to do that. So I took some lessons with him for about 3 months. And it was really funny because I was so into it that after 3 months, he goes, okay, I think I taught you about everything I can. I was like, no, you haven't. He's like, that's it. I'm done. So then I just started to teach myself, and I was hanging out with my friends all the time, trying to learn, we were teaching each other stuff. And really, when it comes down to the lessons thing, my mom was the catalyst. She said, hey, there's a summer program at a school in Boston called Berkeley. You should go check it out. So I went to Berkeley. This was now a year later. So I went to Berkeley, and that's my first taste of like any sort of like real training. You know what I mean? And also I was getting exposed to a lot of different music, right? So I was hearing all these different players and different styles, and also people that were my age. So it was really inspiring.
Yeah.
But my bridge broke when I found the blues. My mom took me to an open blues jam, and the only thing I knew about blues was like Led Zeppelin or Cream, and Hendrix. And all of a sudden I was seeing these guys play blues, and I was like, what is this? And I feel like that's where when I got on stage with those guys, as nervous as I was, like that was my training when I was like, man, this is amazing. So I kept going to these blues jams and learning from these guys and absorbing that music. And for me, that was probably like my biggest crash course.
How long were you at Berkeley for?
So I went to Berkeley for about 9 months. Okay. 9 months, yeah. I actually, when I went there for the summer program, I'd been there for about 2 weeks, and I got offered like to do a scholarship to go to the school.
Nice.
So I did it, and I got a scholarship. and I went to the school, and I'm telling you this, I loved it. The biggest thing for me about the school was I was playing guitar like 14 hours a day. It was amazing. Yeah. But something in my heart wanted to go and play shows and try and tour and, become a guy in a band. And as much as my parents didn't like it, I was like, I got an offer to go on tour. And I took it, and I never went back to Berkeley.
Well, what was that tour like? How far did you travel, and what was the music like?
It was based in Pennsylvania. I got this call, and it was like a blues musical. It was called The Tear Jar, and it was a big band, something I'd never done before. But I remember the guy hit me up, and he said, hey, we want you to be a part of this. And there was a little bit of money, but we were going to go rehearse in Pennsylvania. It lasted about 5 months, the whole experience, right? And I remember when it was done, I was just like, okay, what do I do now? Do I go back to school? Or, so it was a really great experience, but I knew in my heart that, I wanted to be out. I wanted to play. I wanted to figure out how to do that. As crazy and as challenging and, insane as that is, I just kept pushing to do that. I was like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep testing my luck. And that's when I moved out to California.
Had you known anyone out there?
No, I was the guy. This is my story. So funny. You're like trying to keep up with it now, but I was the guy that I got off the bus, basically. Me and my dad drove out there. He dropped me off, and I was like, where am I? Hollywood. I was in Hollywood, and I said to myself, okay, I got to try and do something. And it's funny because now when I think back on it, I laugh because I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a place to stay. I remember when I got there, I found a roommate on like the local, like a Craigslist thing. And it was crazy, Dom. I mean, I used to walk around Hollywood listening for music. Like, I didn't know what to do. But I have to say, like, the biggest thing happened to me at that moment. I was at the Guitar Center on Sunset Boulevard, and I saw this poster, and it said the Les Paul Tribute Contest. 30 guitar players were going to be in this contest to win a brand new gold top Les Paul featuring Guitar Player magazine, you know, all this different stuff. So I had to send like a demo tape. So long story short, I did that and I won. And that was the moment that I was like, yes, I can do this.
And that was the Gibson Les Paul Tribute Contest.
Yeah. And that footage is actually like on YouTube. You can actually see that still to this day. Man, yeah, it was a crazy journey those first few years, you know, trying to just figure out who I was, where I was, what I was trying to do. The journey is long, as you know.
And it's continuing for you because, so what happened with the Musicians Institute Most Outstanding Player Award?
After this Les Paul Tribute Contest, I said to myself, I got to finish this music stuff. I got to get back to this school and try and figure it out. So I instead of going back to Berkeley, I ended up at MI in Los Angeles. And that's when I went there and I just fell in love. Like the Berkeley thing was like my motivation. When I got to MI, I was so into it. And I ended up being there for about 1.5 years. And I ended up getting, the Outstanding Player Award. And I got some cool accolades from that. And I just had a really great time. And that's when I really got to dig in and try and find my sound. And I started kind of figuring out who I wanted to be as a musician. And also I started my own trio there. So it was really cool.
So you put this trio together, you're discovering yourself, but there still was the constant search that you were on. You were onto that search of trying to find out your sound and what you wanted to do as an individual artist. What a great, great journey that has been for you.
It's funny because when you think back on it, there was a lot of things where you say, how did that work? Yeah. How did I do that? You know, and I spent a lot of time. Well, I was so fixated on playing music, and there was just something inside me. I was just, you know, like searching to get out through the guitar and through music. And I just kept pushing and kept pushing. And through that, you know, it was just like step by step. And it took years and years to even get to the point where I figured out like I have a chance to do it, or we're going to play a show, right? You know, it just took a long time, but the process was amazing.
So now you start traveling throughout, you know, North America, and you're starting to get a feel for what this crazy business is like.
Yeah. 3 guys in a car. We were in a Subaru. The bass player, I hooked up with 2 Swedish guys in Los Angeles, and I said, we're going to start playing. So drummer and a bass player. He had a Subaru Outback. So it was a trio and a Subaru. We started to do runs up to like Seattle and back from Los Angeles.
Unbelievable.
Or we would go to Austin, Texas and back. And we were getting a taste, man. We were getting a taste of playing to 5 people a night for $20, basically, you know, and just trying to figure it out. And we just kept going like that. And I remember we did that for about 1 year. And everyone was kind of getting like, okay, what are we going to do? How is this going to work out, right? And we got this opportunity to play a show at the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally at 12 o'clock in the parking lot. I was like, we got to go. We got to go. We get this call for the show, and all of a sudden we're jamming, and I look on the side of the stage, and there's a guy over there, and he looks really mad. And I was like, uh-oh, I think I made someone mad. He was a tour manager for the band Leonard Skinner. And next thing I know, the band Skinner's on the side of the stage, and they're checking us out. I was like, what? So through that, I guess all I'm trying to say is we met those guys, and then they said, hey, you should go on tour with us. So we went from playing to 5 people at the bar to jamming, you know, arenas with them. Like, it was just crazy.
So when you think about this dream that is starting to happen now, it's starting to come into reality, and you're really experiencing, you know, the steps of what success is about. You're experiencing all aspects of this here. Now you're starting to tour. You're opening up for Leonard Skinner. How did you evolve more of your act at that time?
Man, I had to, it was like we were figuring it all out in real time.
Yeah.
And the funny part is too, I was always so fixated on the guitar. When I started the trio, I was like, I got to sing too. We got to write songs. We got to make music. We got to figure out what we wanted to sound like. So it was this like huge leap of saying like, okay, we're just going to do it as we go. And I remember like the first time we started to play real shows, I said to myself, we don't have any merchandise. We don't even have a CD for these people to listen to. We were like, okay, when we get home, we're going to make like an EP. We're going to make something so we can sell it at our shows. Dom, it was so grassroots that it was amazing when I think about it. But it was just like step by step. And yeah, we figured it out pretty quick because then we found ourselves getting booked on a tour across Europe. And it was like, how are we going to do that?
So this is now a 2-month tour throughout Europe. Where'd you start, traveling? How'd that work out? How did you travel?
There was an agency in Belgium, and they said, we have the vans, we have the tour manager, driver to take you around, and we have the gear. So we'll book everything, and basically they'll take the cut off the top, and it was a show a night. So like I remember we played like 14 nights straight in Spain. It was this crash course of playing at these clubs across Europe, and it was amazing. We had such an amazing time that it was like, we started to see like a light where it was like, man, people are liking what we do, and people are starting to connect with this, even at such a small number, that it was inspiring to keep going.
Well, it's inspiring to hear. I mean, here you are at a time where people are questioning the music industry, and just your sheer passion and perseverance just drove you forward. So how are you organizing the business side of this? Because, you're in the van traveling with each other, you're writing tunes, you're playing every night. How did you organize the business side of all this?
So I was very lucky. I have to give the biggest shout out to your friend and mine, Phil Jargui. I met, remember now, let's go back in the story to the Les Paul contest.
Yeah.
Judges was Phil.
Interesting.
There on behalf of a string company, D'Addario. And I remember he said to me, hey man, you got a band? You need a place to rehearse? You need some gear to use? So all of a sudden I had this guy in my corner that had all of this experience. So when we started to organically start to get these shows, and then when we got this Europe tour, I was able to have Phil and say, hey, Phil, how are we going to do this? And it was so funny because at first, like Phil and I were like friends, I just knew him. And then all of a sudden he started to say manager. And then I was like, ooh, this is good. Now he's on my side and we're going to do this. And thankfully at this point, once we started to say like, we're really going to take a run at this and try and tour and try and go out for these long runs, I had Phil to be there saying, all right, hold on, I got to help you guys. It was great because he was like the dad, like the kids were ready to go. We were ready to go across Europe. And then he was like, hold on, let me get this straight. We got to book real flights for you guys. He was able to help us do all of that stuff. There was times though where, I just didn't know what to do. And it was like, we'll just have to figure it out.
Phil is a phenomenal energy and a real force in the music industry. Very smart and very, very aware of how the industry is. So here he is now believing in what you're doing. I think the key thing about passion, what it sounds like you've done, is you're so passionate at what you're doing, you're bringing other people in to start to see that, you're into this and you want to really push this as far as you can go.
I was lucky. Yes, absolutely. And I feel so lucky to have a guy like Phil in my corner, someone that had all that experience, and have bandmates and people that love the music as much as I did. And we had such a genuine connection and a bond over it. They knew I was all in, and we worked together, and it was just an amazing experience. And I think that's a true testament to building relationships and working with people that you can trust. Yeah. It really, it's the best because, we're all so used to things coming and going, but when you have a constant and you have these people that truly believe in it as much as I do, it's like we can really work together. And it's at that point, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. We can see things through.
Boy, talk about that for a while, Jared, because the development of relationships is such an important part of putting your team together that shares the vision of what your passion and what you want to achieve.
Absolutely.
How'd you put all that together? How do you maintain it?
Well, I'll tell you this, it's hard to do because I remember when I moved to Los Angeles, I was trying to find musicians and everyone was going, yeah, man, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that. But it was so fast paced and it was so almost like easy come, easy go. You know, one guy's there that day and then he's gone tomorrow. And trying to find people that I really gelled with, it took time. I knew when I met Phil, I met someone special that had a real grasp on the industry. And when we started to organically develop our relationship as friends, and we both really respected each other and we started to grow together, that's when I knew I had a partner. And that's what it comes down to is having partners in crime, right? It's like through thick or thin, like we're going to do it together. And, you know, the drummer that I've been playing with, Dennis was one of the first people I met in Los Angeles. We're still playing to this day. And we're like 10 years later, a partner in crime. It's like, it's just amazing when you have people that you can count on. I think that a lot of musicians that I meet, they harbor a mentality that it's like, it's just me, you know, like I'm going to do it no matter what. But the reality is the unity and having people on your team and coming together, that's when the magic happens. And that's when we can all, you know, help each other along. And it's a beautiful thing.
Well, what are some career highlights? Because you played and recorded at Abbey Road, Sunset Sound. I mean, you really, Swing House, you really have been around Dave Grohl's studio,
Yeah.
606. You know, these are some incredible memories and experiences.
I'm so, like I said, I'm so fortunate and humbled to do that. You know, some of the biggest career highlights are, you know, meeting a lot of my musical heroes from when I was a kid and being able to jam with them. Everyone from the guys in ZZ Top, all the classic rock stuff, Leonard Skinner, and going on tour all over the world and being able to see places I never thought I'd see. And the reason I got there was because of the music and the determination to do that. You know, I remember like as simple as like I got to go on a tour. This was in 2019. I was on the road for 308 days straight. I released a signature guitar. We can talk about that more in a bit.
Yeah, sure.
I found myself in all of these crazy places, everywhere from Egypt and Turkey and Dubai. I was going all over the place to play shows and to, you know, spread my music. And I remember the moment I was at the pyramids and the guy was taking me for a tour, I said to myself, man, you should stop and see where you are right now and breathe this in, right? You know, stop and smell the roses. And, you know, some of the highlights are really the travel and being able to connect with people all over the world, play with heroes, have amazing memories to, you know, think about all the time. And also, you know, just do what I love.
Boy, isn't it amazing that traveling really has become our best teacher?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's one of the things that no matter how much you read about things or how much, you know, time you put into an instrument, you know, even sitting at home and practicing, once you're traveling, once you're out and you're really doing it, or you're traveling to different places and getting that culture, that's when you start to really, things start to connect.
Well, talk about your first and second album, because your second album came out in 2018.
Yep.
Talk about the development of that and how you put that all together.
We recorded that album at Johnny Depp's house. It was amazing. I met Johnny through the guys in Aerosmith. So at Phil's studio, I always call it like the spider web. I think like with music and all this stuff, relationships, and it's like a big web. It's like I met the guys at Aerosmith. They were making a record at Phil's studio. So they heard me jamming in a room and they invited me back to check out their recording session. Johnny Depp was there. Next thing you know, I got this opportunity. My friend and I ended up going to Johnny's to use his studio to make that record. You know, I was so determined to always be on the road and always pushing the music that when we made that record, I remember there would be like, we'd be on the road and then I'd be in LA for like 3 days. And it's like, okay, let's write. We'll write the songs for the record. Or we'd be back for a week and I'd say, okay, let's cut all the vocals now. You know, so that record was made on the run. And it was such a cool experience because I think about these records as like a snapshot in time. And I remember there's points on there. I remember we had a show and I came to cut vocals the next morning and I coughed and I was like, and we left it. And I'll never forget that cough because I was in that mode where I was just running. I was just doing it. And that record for me, it was a big proving ground because that was the first time that I really stepped out and tried to think about it like, okay, as an artist, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to, craft songs and develop it, not on the road, but in the studio?
Interesting. What motivates you to write and stay in that creative head?
I've really dug in more with the pandemic and everything, being home and having more quiet time. I get motivated just by life in general. I know that sounds vague, but experiences. I think about, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I lost my father in December. That was a huge motivation for me on more of digging in emotionally and tapping into like different emotions I've never tried to display. So the best part is, so we did Black Magic, and now I've had this opportunity to make this new record. So I took all of this time to really dig in on the songwriting and think to myself, how am I really going to say what I want to say with these songs? And it's been a journey, to say the least. And I'm so excited because I'm not sure when this is going to come out, but on June 9th, that's when the new music's coming.
So with the writing and your recording and putting this all together, do you have your own publishing company? How do you organize the business side of writing and publishing and recording? How do you put all that together?
So up until this time, I've kept all of my masters, all of the recordings, everything. I just started doing something that I never even did before, was like co-writing, doing things like that. So for me, up until this record, everything we've just kind of done grassroots on our own. We've held all the publishing. I've had opportunities now coming up where I signed a deal with a label, Black Hill, and now I'm starting to get offers for different publishing stuff. So now, Dom, just being honest, these are new things that I'm trying to navigate, which I feel like is kind of funny because a lot of people that I talk to that have been in the industry, they'll kind of smile and look at me and say, oh, okay, and this is all like a new territory, a new journey for me. So I've been really happy though, up until this point, to say we've done it all. Phil and I, we've done it all like ourselves. If that makes sense, you know what I'm trying to say? We've grown it ourselves. We planted the water, but we'll see what the future holds. I'm excited to have a bunch of different opportunities on the table as far as different publishing stuff goes. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, it sounds like you've kept control over it. Do you have a music lawyer that you confer with on some of this stuff?
Yes, I've been very lucky. One of my good friends, watch your feed, I'm going to name drop, Joe Bonamassa. He actually hooked us up with his music lawyer that he's had since he's 14 years old. And he said to me, Jared, you need a good lawyer. He's like, listen to me now. And this would have been about 1.5 years ago. We got hooked up with Jonas. His name's Jonas. It's been great. And those are the things that for sure for me are really important. It's yet again, it's like growing with people that you can trust to a point where it's like, I have a lot of questions, Dom. I don't have a lot of answers. So I need good people around that I can say, hey, is this good or is this bad or ugly? What is this? I remember it would have been 2017. We booked gigs for about 4 or 5 years, Phil and I, until I had an agent. And then I got a booking agent and things like that, where it was like a different, it's like you level up.
Yes.
So I still feel like in my career and in my life, I continue to level up, where it's like, okay, this is something new I've never done, or we've done it by ourselves. So it's really cool experiences I'm grateful for.
Well, it sounds like you're staying true to yourself, because when you're true to yourself at that point, the leveling up continues for as long as you want to keep on leveling up.
Yes. And that's the exciting part. I feel like there's a lot of negativity when it comes to building a career, and they always think about this hard grind. For me, I'm having so much fun. I really am. And I feel like it's like I'm living a dream, and I feel like I'm living out kind of like my childhood fantasy of just like getting able to play music and connect with people all over the world and do cool stuff. So for that, I'm grateful. And I just want to keep leveling up.
Well, let me clarify it for you, Jared. You are living the dream. This absolutely is it. It doesn't get any better than this. To live your passion every day and do what you love doing. This is magic at such a high level.
I'm truly lucky that I had that support and just honestly the determination to not stop. Because I can say this to anyone that's watching this that might be, you know, thinking about making this their career, any of this, you just gotta not stop. You have to go the extra mile and be determined and love it.
Well, that's great advice. Talk about the guitar that you've designed.
Okay. This is my second signature guitar with Epiphone. I've released 2 signatures. The first one was in 2019, and this one came out in April. This is Gold Glory. It's a Les Paul custom.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I love it. They let me design 2 signature guitars. So, and it's really cool. And obviously this is a dream come true to have these guitars and to be recognized as a player. So I'm super proud of these. This one, like I said, it just came out in April, and I have so much cool stuff in store with Epiphone and Gibson guitars. And to be honest, I just love them. I'm from the same town. I was born in the same town as Les Paul, which is kind of a cool thing. So like, I don't know, it just feels cool. It's a big honor, yeah, to be recognized. You know, I always thought, Dom, that guitars, like signature guitars, those are for the Eric Claptons and the Slashes and those kind of guys. So for someone like me that just genuinely loves it and has been working his butt off, to have these, it's like I get to play my guitar every day, my signature guitar. It's like, it's something that I really didn't dream that far. This was a huge honor. So yeah, this is Gold Glory.
So what makes that guitar different?
So check this out. It's a Les Paul. It's a shape we all know and we all love. But what makes this different is due to the way I play guitar, I would Frankenstein my guitars. So the first thing you'll notice is this only has 1 pickup. It's kind of like another guitar called a Les Paul Jr. I'm a huge Leslie West fan. I know you're a New York guy. He would play a Les Paul Jr. Yeah. And this is kind of like I put the 2 together, a standard Les Paul and a Junior. And what's so cool about this is you don't ever see them where they're like this big body Les Paul with such simple electronics. And the best part about this guitar is I feel like it's really unique. When I play it, I'm inspired to sound like me. And what's cool is other players, there's nothing so signature about this where it's like, man, I'm only going to sound like that guy. It's like when any player picks this up, they're going to sound like them because it's so simple and it forces you to play. It's a really cool signature guitar, but to me, it's a guitar for anyone, a beginner, someone that's been playing their whole life. It'll just inspire you to play in a different way.
Boy, it sounds like, you know, as you're speaking, you really have earned this experience and working on a design and a sound. You've earned this, Jared. This is not something that is just given to anybody. You got to prove yourself to be worthy of going through developing a guitar like that.
Yeah, and to me, it's something that I think about every day, and I'm just so proud of it. People sometimes they'll ask me like about anything. They're like, how does it feel? Like, do you ever get nervous or this or this? And to be honest, it's like, I don't even think like that. I just think about like how exciting it is to, like we said, be able to do the guitar stuff or, you know, make records or tour or play shows or jam with my heroes. It's just exciting. And I'm just grateful every day to pick it up and do it.
Well, let's talk about a couple of the heroes that you play with. Talk about what it was like just to play with Slash.
It was funny. I swear to you, every kid, everyone has heard, you know, Sweet Child of Mine. And when I remember I was a kid, I had a Slash poster. And then to look over and to see the top hat and to see the Les Paul, and then to look down and see me playing along with him. Oh my goodness. It was one of those moments. I felt like I was on a roller coaster because like, I was just like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. But also what was so cool before I played with Slash, he came up to me and he goes, man, you're a great player. And I was like, I would look behind me. Is he talking to me? Slash was amazing. When I got to play with Leslie West, that was a huge, huge honor for me. Like my biggest guitar hero. Incredible. I've gotten to jam with, you know.
What about Peter Frampton?
Oh, Frampton. That was a crazy one too. That blew my mind, man. I mean, to look over, and I remember that one too when I got on stage and Frampton was there. He looked at me from across stage and he went, hello, like gave me like a little bow. And I was like, just crazy because I'm like everybody else. Like I don't want to say like I get like totally starstruck, but when I see these people, it doesn't, it doesn't go away from me that like I've been a fan of this my whole life. And that for me, this is just an amazing experience. I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, that's cool, whatever. It's an amazing experience.
What was it like with Joe Bonamassa?
Okay, so I remember seeing Bonamassa in the guitar magazines when I was a kid. I was always into him because unlike Hendrix or Clapton or these guys, he was just a little older than me. Like it felt like someone that wasn't too far above, my age. And what's so cool with Joe and a lot of these other players is they see my love and enthusiasm for the guitar and for building a career, and we become friends. So like Joe now has become like one of my closest buddies, which is so cool. And it's funny because I can ask him questions. He'll say something like, oh, I had this song once on this record, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, I know it. Like I don't say it, but I'm like, yeah, I know it. So it's super cool. And the one thing I just love the most is just being able to connect with people over music. And at the end of the day, we're all the same.
Well, that really is the power of music, is that everybody has their own voice, but you're really kind of coming into terms of your own voice. One more. What was it like with Steve Vai?
Okay. Yeah. We could do this all day, right?
I know, right?
The Steve Vai one. Okay. So my friend calls and he goes, Jared, do you want to jam with Steve Vai? And I was like, what is that even a real question? What do you think? Of course I do. Right. So what ends up happening is, Steve put on an event. It was called the Big Mama Jamma. It was this big, long jam session. And I remember I showed up. It's Kenny Aronoff on drums.
Nice.
I can't remember who was on bass, but Steve was there. And he looked at me and I was like, to me, Steve is like an alien. He's like one of those guitarists that's from another planet. He looks at me and he goes, what do you want to play? And I just said, anything. And he goes, anything. Okay. So he was plugged into his big, his big rig. And I had like a little amp next to him. And I remember I thought to myself, man, I'm ultimately respectful of these musicians. But with Steve, I was like, I'm going to do a little flashy thing right away to see what happens. And I did that. And all of a sudden he looked at me and he was kind of like, oh, what ended up happening, Dom? Steve Vai and I trading licks for like 20 minutes. And it was like the coolest thing. And I remember I looked down and my friend was sitting there and he looks at me and he goes, like, he's filming it. He's like, I can't believe this is happening. And I wanted to be like, me neither. Like, this is so crazy. But that was so cool. Just Steve Vai. It's like, yet again, just such a trip. And it's so crazy. Like, I keep thinking about it when you put yourself out there and you set your mind to it and you're honest with yourself and you push hard, how far you can really go and like how many things can truly happen. It's cool.
Absolutely. Managing all this here, are you on top of what's happening with social media where you're involved with all of that by getting the word out globally?
Yeah. Social media is a huge aspect, especially with, the past year, how it's been. It's more of a connection thing. So like, I focus on like different, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, I like to put stuff up to keep people inspired, but also to connect over, the love of music. And what I've noticed more than anything is how many people are truly into it. I'll put up a video on like Instagram and there'll be thousands of views in just a few minutes. And for me, it's kind of crazy because I don't look at that as something that's like, oh, look at me. It's more like, wow, look at all the people that are into this stuff. And it's an important thing. And also it's hard to keep up with sometimes too, because sometimes you just want to live your life and you're like, oh man, I better post this on my Facebook, so it's kind of crazy.
It's amazing how the world is at. Threw Me to the Wolves. That was premiered BBC in the UK, in Sweden.
Yep.
How does this make you feel that you're starting to reach this globe of audience that's pretty powerful?
It's exciting. It's really exciting. It's yet again, I think about where I started and where I've gone to and the lengths I've gone to get to this spot. And I just feel grateful that I'm still able to do this. I remember we were on tour in England and the BBC Radio 1 was on and they were like, this is Jared James Nichols, Threw Me to the Wolves. And they played it. And I was just thinking to myself, man, life is a trip. I'm humbled and I'm honored. And it makes me inspired to keep pushing. And I think that's the key of it, is that, there's never any set. It's just a continuous thing. It's living and it's breathing. And I feel like that's the way I love to keep it.
Did you have any mentors as you were growing up? Did you have people that you looked up to and supported you?
I did. Yeah, of course. Like when it came to like life mentors, my parents were amazing. They were very supportive. They were always like catalysts for me to, follow my dreams. And I think that really helped. I didn't have, my dad was a construction worker. My mom, she did real estate. So there was no music industry ties. I didn't have like a dadager or a momager. It was just, they said, oh, Jared loves to play guitar. Like let's help him. Let's facilitate that. So that was amazing. And as far as like musicians go, there was people that were local to me that were huge. There's a guitar player, Greg Koch in Milwaukee, who was, I saw him play, and he was one of the first guys I saw with my own eyes where I was like, wow, that's amazing. And I would go watch him play. But I was the kid who had a backpack full of CDs, and I had a guitar on one shoulder and the backpack on the other. And I was just inspired. And I knew real early on that music gave me a certain feeling. The energy that I always wanted during the day was like, it was just music.
In closing, Jared, what would you say to this young generation that's out there that has that same sparkle that you had? What would you say to them? And what would you say to a young Jared James in the beginning of this journey? What kind of advice would you give them to kind of help them, to guide them along the way to reach that level of success?
The first thing I would say is play what you love. And I know that seems really simple, but at the end of the day, I think that's what it's all about as a musician. In the early times, there was everyone's going to tell you what to do. Everyone's going to tell you what to play, push you in different areas. And that's great. That's part of life. But at the end of the day, you got to play what's in your heart and play what's in your soul, what you're trying to express. I would also encourage anyone, and a young Jared, music is not a competition. Music is just, it's a form of self-expression. It's your art. It's you being able to speak through an instrument, through music, through notes. That is a huge thing that I think that a lot of young people, they really need to hear. And they need to understand that at the end of the day, there's no award or there's no, medal for who plays the fastest or who's better than anyone. We're all on the same trail. And that is the biggest piece, I think, as a musician growing, that you need to remember. And, it wasn't built in a day. It took me a very long time, a lot of years, and a lot of, the blood, sweat, and tears to get to the point where I'm at. And, that you have to sacrifice, you have to push yourself way further than you'll ever think you need to. And it's important to understand that, it's a beautiful ride. And if you love the music will love you back.
Well, it sounds like you really have earned what you have built today. And it sounds like you're continuing to push yourself to continue to earn it and push this as far as you can. And Music Radar named you the top upcoming guitar player in the world. So, you're starting to really get noticed in this game.
Like I said, it's a fun thing. It's fun. Like that stuff's amazing. And it just constantly reminds me that, I'm doing something that people are noticing, and I'm serving the music I love and giving back to what it gave me.
Well, Jared James Nichols, you have absolutely done that, and you are continuing to do that as you inspire and lift people through your music and through your positive, enthusiastic attitude. For that, I thank you so much. The Artist Series that exists, you have done fantastic.
Well, thank you, Dom. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and it's great. Now I'm even more inspired. So now I'm going to go back and watch all the sessions and just keep jamming.
You will be up there with all of them. We'll post this out there. We'll get this going. Thank you so much. Stay well. And I look forward to seeing you when I'm in Nashville and getting together in person. That would be fantastic. Dom. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Dom Famularo here, the Sessions panel. This is so exciting. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Click the subscribe button to be a part of what we're doing. The views help us tremendously. All of your comments, we read them and react to them. This is incredible. The support you're giving us is great. The Sessions panel. We'll see you real soon.